get ready, get your popcorn and get your libations, whatever you need that makes life bearable for you wherever you live, because what's good is coming up. And here it goes right now. Sirree, Bob. And what we got here, Mr. Marcus has a video that he has done, and I'm going to play that if I don't screw up. We practice it.
Fingers crossed.
That's not a sleeve. Presto. All right. Here we go. And bingo, bango. Start it up.
You ever pick up a comic and by the last page, you just know that you're in for something special? That was me with Bug Wars #1. Right away, Jason Aaron pulls you into this wild, high-stakes world that's one part Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, one part Game of Thrones. And honestly, it's got that Goonies or Peter Pan energy too. It's an adventure story at its core, filled with danger, discovery, and a kid thrust into a world way bigger, well, smaller than he ever imagined. The book kicks off with an intense battle between warring bug factions, the Ant Empire and the Beetle clans locked in an age-old war. The imagery is brutal, swords clash, heads roll, and the battlefield is an all-out bloodbath. But before either side can claim victory, a massive storm sweeps through, wiping them all out. Cut to the human world, and we meet Slade and his older brother, Sidney. Their family has just moved into a house left to them by their late father, Jim, an entomologist. This isn't just any house, it's his house, and it's filled with history, mystery, and apparently a ton of bugs. Sidney, still haunted by a traumatic past event involving their father and insects, is on edge, while Slade, taking after his dad, has a deep love for bugs, especially his pet rhinoceros beetle, Pock. Family tensions boil over when Sidney storms into Slade's room and wipes out his entire bug collection. Slade rushes to save Pock, chasing him down into their father's old office, where he stumbles upon a strange, broken amulet. The moment he touches it, boom, a flash of green light, and suddenly he shrunk down to insect size, thrown right into the heart of the bug war. Now, this is where the adventure really kicks off. Slade, a kid who's never been the hero of anything in his life, suddenly finds himself face to face with the brutal beetle clans. When they try to push him around, he fights back, literally punching through a beetle warrior's head. And that's when you realize this world is going to change him. We get this haunting narration from an older Slade looking back on this moment, wondering if he would still make the same choice to pick up that amulet if he knew where it would lead. That line alone tells you this story is going somewhere, and I cannot wait to see where it takes us. What makes Bug Wars #1 so strong is how it balances action, mystery, and character. Jason Aaron doesn't just drop us into a cool bug-sized war. He makes us care about Slade, about his family's struggles, and about the secrets surrounding his father's past. Then there's the amulet. What is this thing? What happened to Jim? Why did every exterminator refuse to touch the house? There's a bigger mystery at play here, and it's woven into the heart of this adventure. Now, let's talk about something I think is worth keeping an eye on. This book feels very optionable. I mean, studios are always looking for unique fantasy stories, and Bug Wars has that perfect mix of an imaginative world, strong emotional core, and high stakes adventure. You've got the kid thrust into another world trope that works so well in film. Think Pan's Labyrinth, the Spiderwick Chronicles, or even Never Ending Story. Plus, the visuals, insane. The bug battles alone would be a dream for a studio that wants to mix live action and CGI in a way that stands out. I've personally picked up a couple of extra copies for my collection because if this gets optioned, I wouldn't be surprised to see prices spike. That's not financial advice, just a gut feeling. Bottom line, Bug Wars #1 is an absolute banger of a first issue. It's got world-building action, mystery, and a sense of adventure that feels fresh and exciting. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend picking it up. And if you've already read it, let me know in the comments. What do you think about Slade? What's up with this amulet? The war between the ants and the beetles? Drop your thoughts down below and let's talk about it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more comic book deep dives. I'll catch you in the next one.
Yeah, it's not often that I read a book, especially a #1 book, right? I'll read like 4 or 5 issues, and then that's what'll hook me as I get a piece of the whole story. But this is one of those rare books where I really saw what the author was doing in the first issue. I saw the things that it's setting up, the things that it's building up to, and the foreshadowing that it does in the book is really cool. It sets up questions that I'm curious about, like the questions surrounding the death of the father of the family. And so it's just doing a lot of work, and I do think it's extremely optionable. It's been a long time since anybody's done Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And that was a really cool movie, as I recall, especially for Kid Marcus. So I think the idea of a kid shrinking down to bug size and entering this whole new bug world could really work on the big screen. So great for the read. Could be ground level stuff going forward, though. So I highly recommend we check it out.
I agree, man. I think that's a great call to say that it's highly optionable. I mean, you get that feel when you like. There's something here, right? There's something that appeals to everybody, you know. Yeah, I think pick up a couple of copies that wouldn't. It's not a bad move, you know. And it's probably just going to like, you know, be a great read to boot. So you can't lose.
To boot.
That's right. Well done, son. Yeah. All right. So Bug Wars, those crazy Bug Wars. Bill Murray doing Star Wars things. Yeah. Yeah, definitely a good book. Got the 1 in 25. Nice.
Dang, baller.
1 in 50. Yeah. Yeah. Don't be surprised if that goes somewhere because Jason Aaron is he's got gravitas and people know his stuff and all that jazz. Chariot, still waiting for Chariot. I'm still waiting to find Chariot. I'm still waiting to like find it to be able to read it. I heard it was very good.
Yeah, that got optioned. Think about it. 4 years ago, it got optioned.
Yeah, but now is the time to find them because they're probably going down in price for sure. Well, not great for young, like probably like below, I'd say 10, something like that. But I don't know. I don't have kids. I can't like say what your child might react to, but you might guess like 10, 12, 12 and older can definitely handle it. Yeah. The dynamic between the kids is such a thing. You can see, I can feel like there's going to be like I feel like his brother is going to get in there. Now we talked about it, the whole thing. I feel like his brother is going to find his way into that universe too, and they're going to be adversaries. I think
it does seem like they're going to be adversaries somehow, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because there's definitely some bad blood between them, and I get that he was, he found his dad and all that stuff. But damn, man, lighten up on your bro. That's just y'all in this together. All right, so my turn. What I got now? I remember I got a tough act to follow here, man. That's you did such a great job. All right, I got first one I want to talk about is Missing on the Moon, also a former penultimate book. This one is from the powerhouse that is Mad Cave. This is written by, no joke, Corey Crater. The fact that a guy named Corey Crater writes a book called Missing on the Moon. Accident? I don't know. I don't think so. And the artist is Damien Cusiero, I want to say. And Patricio DePecci is the color artist. And I can't pronounce that, brother. I know Showbo said it so beautifully. I want to say, can I just record what you said about that guy and play it every time I have to say his name? Like Hassan Atsmani Elehu. I'm sorry, Hassan. Please don't hate me. Well, this is another detective story, and I love my detective stories. You can put a detective story anywhere, anytime. Pretty good. You could have like caveman detective. Like I'm just a simple caveman detective. I don't know anything about about life, and it would actually work. This guy is on the moon. And he's on the moon where there's colonization. It turns out they have an entire history of kind of like Geiger and the Ghost World of the Ghost Machine universe. They have this entire timeline of all the stuff that has happened to bring colonization to the moon. And it starts with the Russians back in 1958. They win the space race by landing on the moon first. They colonized the moon. There's a disaster with one of the Apollo rocket ships, and it goes on and on from there. So, end result of it is that this guy is a detective, and he's working a case on one of the many moon cities. Here you see like they're the names of the moon cities. Bullseye is like the one right in the middle. I guess it's a very original name. One at the top is Blue Cap, which is like one of the Russian strongholds. And it's really no nation, but the different races and different countries are represented, but nobody claims the moon. It's still not no man's land, but like a Wild West kind of a thing going on there. So this detective, whose name escapes me, is going to try to find the child of this rich oligarch, which of course, most of the people on the moon, we continue our same society on the moon as we have on Earth. The oligarchs live in nice neighborhoods, and the poor people just end up living in the slums, and sometimes eventually get thrown out into the outer crust of the moon to die, out in the atmosphere. But that won't last long. So this young woman is missing, and the only reason that anyone cares is because she's the daughter of a rich person. And this detective, he's gone through a lot of stuff. He's lost a child of his own, and he's kind of like in a I don't give a fuck kind of a mode. And like, whatever, this is a thing. I'm going through it, and I don't really care about you or the case or anything. I'm just doing it for the money. This is kind of formulaic in some ways, but it's very well done. The pacing of the writing has had me I never for a second just got bored. I was going through this whole like Shanghai looking city where he's looking for the girl, and the dialogue is snappy, and it's like, your typical detective fare. But if you're a fan of that genre, then I think you'll do well to pick this up. He ends up like looking for the girl out in the in the moonscape with this guy, and some horrible things happen to him out there, and he ends up in the hospital. But the missing on the moon thing, I think, is worth it if you are a detective fan and if you're a sci-fi fan. They blend those two genres pretty well together. So yeah, Missing on the Moon, number 1, which has been out for a minute, and probably on maybe 2 or 3 by now, from Mad Cave. And check it out. It's if you can find it, I think you can. If you're lucky, you live in a big city, or if you got a My Comic Shop or a Tifa or a Midtown Comics you can get it from. Hey, check out Missing on the Moon, because
interesting setup, man. Interesting thought.
Yeah,
living on the moon.
Yeah, I mean, these dome cities that are connected by railways, like bullet trains and stuff like that. Very, very cool setup. Next is Those Not Afraid. We talked about this before. This is on Dark Horse. This is written by Kyle Starks and art by Patrick Piazzalunga. Piazzalunga. Colors by Marco Bracco and letters by Jim Campbell. This is the 4-issue miniseries about the 2 serial killers who have embarked on this contest. Well, one is trying to set the record for most murders. Grim material, but actually a pretty well-written book. You kind of grimace at the fact that, somebody is like turning this into a race because, like life sometimes imitates art. And you hope the hell that nobody ever does that. So the 2 killers, one is called the Lady Killer, and one is called the breaking and entering killer. I forget what they actually call him. The Lady Killer is just a smarmy, I think, car dealer, and he charms people, and then he gets to know them, and ends up kidnapping them and murdering them and then torturing them first and all this. And he's very arrogant. He's followed the break and entering killer to his job because that's kind of his thing, right? He stalks people. Not that I don't trust you. I just want to see where you work so I can have more stuff on you. So he's just, and he brings his wife, the Lady Killer, that is. The Lady Killer has a wife who knows nothing about his life. And his wife's friend is this young lady here who's on the cover with the Afro Puffs, who has a blog, I should say a podcast about serial killers. So the irony is that, all these people are intermingled in some way. Both killers and the podcaster. So, and there's a meeting at the one of the killers' his job where he works as a waiter. And after they get through all those things like how'd you find me and all that jazz, he actually hooks up the killer with the lady killer. That is, he hooks him up with the friend who's doing the podcast. Like, hey, she might like you. Maybe you should give her your numbers. He's like, I don't do well with women. They find me off-putting. Imagine that. But I guess times are so hard that he eventually gives him her number, and they ended up going out on a date. How frightening that is. And the way this is moving along so quickly, I see a resolution coming to maybe them getting caught in this issue. But the way it's happening is really kind of intriguing because I don't want to spoil it. But something happens where the lady killer is exposed, and the question is now: will the break and entering killer also be exposed because the lady killer rats him out? That's something we have to wait until next issue for, which is on sale March 19th. But yeah, Those Not Afraid with covers by Glenn Fabry, who did a lot of those Preacher covers back in the day, if you remember those. This is a really good series. Love my 4-issue miniseries. Don't like a long, commitment with my comic books, as I may have mentioned before. So I think
once or twice,
maybe. So the next book is one that I finally caught up on, because I was missing number 3 in this series. It's a Space Ghost. I mentioned it earlier, from Dynamite. This is being written by David Pepose, and art is from Jonathan Lau. So this, I love all these. I got so many of these Cho covers, these Michael Cho covers. He expresses the feeling of the 60s cartoons so well. I always get his covers because I just love his style. Nothing against Bjorn Barons, who has a very total realistic style like Alex Ross. But this, to me, this is my Space Ghost. This is my Nightwing. Damn it, that's what I like about him. And the first issue is just the origin of Jan and Jace, where they came from. Their father was this big scientist in the space administration, and he's killed in the first issue by these space pirates. Space Ghost takes them in, along with Blip the monkey. Blip the monkey is not just a pet. Blip has this he's kind of like almost like a cyborg. He's got some stuff built into him that makes him special. So a lot of people are kind of trying to take Blip away from Jan and Jace and Space Ghost. And we, for the first time, as far as I can tell, are given some background on Space Ghost's origin. His real name is Dax, and he lost his family in an event too. So he's like, it's kind of like Batman in space is what this is. And if you're down with Space Ghost, which I am, and you got that kind of nostalgia for it, which I do, it makes a really great read. And in this issue, the previous issue before this one, Zorak is brought in. Remember Zorak, right? From Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
I remember.
Yeah. Zorak's not a funny dude in here. Zorak is like a leader of a suicide cult. So he's a pretty bad guy. He's like Space Ghost's arch enemy. They have lots of history, and he's building this collider here. And some weird stuff happens where Jan and Jace are almost killed, and at the end there's like a crisis of conscience between one of the twins. The twins are so badass too. Jan is like the brains, Well, actually, Jan is more like the badass fighter, and she's really good at stealing stuff away from, like, if you have like some keys that will help her escape, she'll somehow find a way to steal those keys away from the bad guy. Whereas Jace, the boy, he's kind of like the brains, and he's kind of like a nerd and not much of a fighter. And together they make a great team. And this is already at number, I want to say 9. I just finished number 5 here. So I was at number 2. So I made a big leap. So I'm almost done with catching up with Space Ghost. But I'm glad I didn't cancel it because it's fun. It's a quick read. it's beautiful art, and the nostalgia is there for me. And Batman in space, you had me at Batman in space. Yeah,
XIC.
yeah, man.
Space
I
Ghost.
know, man. I love that cartoon, man. That's my nostalgia. That's my Thundercats right there. All right, what's next? Oh, the last one. The last one is Blood Train. Not to be confused with Kill Train, which is a very different thing. Same thing, but different. All right, Blood Train. Blood Train actually takes place in Siberia in the present day, and there's these kids who are like vacationing there, but they've actually been touring Europe. I think I got a photo here. I can just share it real quick. They've been touring Europe, and they're on their way home. And image file. It was this beautiful thing about this new thing that StreamYard has, that we can share these images now, which is very cool. I wasn't able to do that before, and now I can just like open up one of these things here. Okay, so here's like them at the train station in Siberia. They're all just typical teenagers and going through all this the shit that they're on their phones, and one guy is bragging about the dump he just took, and the girls are telling him you're just a weird nasty fuck, shut up, all this stuff that kids normally go through. And it turns out one of the girls, one of the kids gets poked. You can see that needle down at the bottom there by this fucking guy that injects her with this thing. She's like, oh, what the hell happened? Somebody stuck me. You're just being paranoid. Shut up. So she gets, and immediately after that guy sticks her with that needle, he walks in front of the train and is killed. Like, you don't find out until later, what that was about. So they get on the train and shit starts happening, and we don't realize what's really happening until people start freaking out, because there's some terrorists that just literally landed on top of the train with a helicopter, and they crashed through the window, and they're looking for something. Like, people think that they're just trying to rob the train, but they are in fact looking for something. What they're looking for is that girl, because she was stuck with this virus. She's become like patient zero, and she doesn't even realize what's happening to her. The virus has spread. It starts to spread to other people, and one by one, their little band of friends gets picked off, and it's, I don't want to give away who's the last one, and it has a nice ending where it wraps everything up, because there's a one shot, which I love. It is unlike Kill Train, which is a 4 or 5 issue series. This is a one shot. It ends very well, like an episode of The Twilight Zone almost. So I think someone in the chat had talked about how nice a book this was, but I really like it. I'm not going to add to the stage. I'm going to take it away from the stage. All right, and I recommend it. Blood Train, from, I just named the person, I forgot the name already, Adam Glass and Bernard Chang. I didn't mention their names. Adam Glass is the writer, and Bernard Chang is the artist and colorist. It's totally worth it. From Image, which is a full size, like, you think it's one of those
Distillery.
Yeah, one of those distilleries. It's a distillery size. It's not perfect bound though. It's saddle stitched, but still a very nice book and a good read. It's only like $7.99, pretty much the same price as the distillery book. Good looking book, good read. Blood Train, and pick it up. Be there. Aloha. Thank you very much. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and leave a thumbs up.